afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a very sunny Friday afternoon, heading into the weekend. I think we've got more sun, but also some thunder and lightning expected, which is bad news for me because I'm going quad biking on Sunday. Probably not the best day to do it. So, welcome to choosing cybersecurity as a career. I've been doing cybersecurity for a while now, and as a career, I have to say it has been probably the most fulfilling part of my sort of career journey. And we've got a couple of great speakers lined up today to talk about their journeys, which will be much, much more interesting than mine. Sarth, could you just move the slide on for me, one? So very quick introduction. I'm Steve Sands. I'm the chair of the Information Security Specialist Group at the BCS. Today's event is a fireside chat. I'm not sure we need the fire today because it's quite warm, with Kat, with Adam, and facilitated by Sarith. We're aiming to start in just a couple of minutes. Once I rattle through these couple of initial slides, there'll be space for Q&A throughout the event. So you'll be able to use the Q&A on the Zoom call to fire in any questions. But we'll probably have some polls or Q&As as we go along as well. We're aiming to finish fairly promptly at 1:30. So if you have other arrangements, then we'll be done and dusted by 1:30 and you'll be able to get off to them. Sarith? So, quick introduction to the BCS. If you're not already a member of the BCS, I'd strongly encourage you to become one because it's a fantastic organization. I would say that, wouldn't I? We've got about 67,000 members, mainly in the UK, but we have representation in about 150 other countries too. We have local branches up and down the UK, and we're one, that's the ISSG, are one of 50 odd specialist groups looking at all aspects of IT. So if you have a particular interest in IT and it's not security, why wouldn't it be security? But if you have another interest, then we can cater for pretty much all of them. The ISSG has been around for 40 years. In fact, we had a celebratory event just last month, looking back to how we started and where how we've got to where we are and where we're going next. And we've got roughly 3,500 members in the ISSG. So if you're a BCS member and you're not in the ISSG, I'd urge you to join. We're concerned with all aspects of information and indeed cybersecurity, including forensics, hacking, cloud, just about everything in between. Sarith? Next slide. Thank you very much. So very, very quick housekeeping slide. We have no Chatham House rule for this event, so whatever you hear is repeatable. Probably for that reason, Adam and Kat might be very careful what they say because we're also recording the event. So we're hoping that for those people who've been unable to make it today, you will all go away and talk about it and say how great it's been. And other people will want to have a look at the recording that we post on the website in about a fortnight. So we hope it's going to be interactive. We hope you're going to ask lots of questions. We hope you're going to get an awful lot out of it that will help you to shape your own career in cybersecurity. And I think that's just about it now. We have a number of upcoming events. If you're not in the BCS, then join. If you're not in the ISSG, then join, because we've got a huge program of events across the BCS and the ISSG. We're looking at the moment at putting a cloud security program together. I've been chatting to someone just this morning about a very good event that will be coming up in a couple of months. We're doing a joint event with IRMA, a panel session on AI on Tuesday night. We've got our Legal Day series starting in a couple of months. We'll be doing more standards update events, and we're going to be getting into post-quantum cryptography, which I think is going to be, well, I think the whole quantum thing is going to be massive in IT, but that will bring some headaches for those people who rely on existing cryptography methods. So we'll need to understand them properly, and we've got some great events lined up on them too. So I'm going to hand over at this point to Sarith to introduce our guests. And yeah, over to you, Sarith. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Sarith Chandra. I'm part of the ISSG committee. I'm the early careers representative. I've been volunteering with BCS for about 15 years now. I was the chairman for the Young Professionals Information Security Group before we merged a year or so ago with our ISSG counterpart. We would be very keen to hear from our audience. If you have any suggestions for events, and we are happy to arrange that. With that, I'm gonna introduce our two panelists today, Katerina and Adam. We thank you for giving up your valuable time and coming and talking to us. If I could first go to Katerina here, if you would like to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your experience in security, and then we'll go to Adam next. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So welcome, everyone. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. I was familiar with the BCS back in 2018 when I first won one of the Young Professional of the Year awards. And that's how I started getting more into security. But I first started my career very technically. So into pen testing, into being in part of the SOC. Then I moved into something called blue teaming, part of the IBM X-Force incident response and intelligence services, where we responded to some of the biggest data breaches that you've probably seen on the news out there, before moving to more of the red side again. So Hack the Box, one massive organization in terms of training. So moved on to that and helped develop talent in early professionals such as yourselves. And right now, I founded a company called Excelsis, which is pure red teaming. So for those who don't know, red teaming is the offensive hacking part of security. And I'm the CEO of this organization that works globally. So it's been quite a big career progression from blue, SOC to red teaming. But before I hand over as well back to Sarith, I wanted to say that I started my career like you guys today. So I started joining events such as this about early professionals, different webinars, trying to find myself in this field, trying to meet people. So big congratulations and well done for even being here today. And thank you for your time in return. So back to you, Sarith.
Yeah, thank you, Katerina. Adam, if you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Yep, sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Bennett. I'm currently working as head of cybersecurity in Deinta, but if I go back a few years, I started my career. I did a degree at Staffordshire University, which was a sandwich degree, and did a placement as part of that degree, which really helped. So I hugely recommend doing placement years. I moved on to doing web app security testing at a gambling company briefly while I was waiting for my security vetting to come through so that I could join GCHQ. So prior to my current role, I was with GCHQ, or technically the National Cybersecurity Centre, for almost a decade. I did all sorts of wonderful things. In fact, when I first joined, I nearly quit because I started, they threw me straight into doing cryptography. And in fact, my first task was to program AES in C, and programming at the time wasn't a strength of mine. But I learned an absolute load of stuff, as you can probably imagine. Give you a tip, it's nothing like spooks. It's mostly just sat in front of a computer. From there, I joined the NCSC security architecture team. They had a development program that lasted, I think, 5 years. And as part of that, I was exposed to all areas of the business around NCSC and GCHQ. I got to work with all sorts of departments in the UK government, MOD, GDS, Cabinet Office. I did a placement at the Bank of England, which was really awesome, in their SOC. Again, placements are really good if you can get them. And I think one of the most awesome achievements was during the pandemic. I helped to build and guide the people at the NHS in setting up their track and trace SOC, and then produce some guidance on how to build a SOC. There's quite a lot of things I could talk about, so I won't try and steal any thunder, but yeah, it's been quite a journey. But I moved to Deinta, having worked with some of the guys there. I had an opportunity to build a team, and I thought that I could give back by taking all that experience and trying to grow a team for a boutique consultancy and build it from the ground up. There you go. Thanks.
All right, thank you. That's a lot of varied experience, and I know you mentioned placements a couple of times. I think we're going to circle back to that. Thanks, Catherine and Adam, for that intro. Extremely interesting, exciting careers, and you guys are clearly doing what you would like to do and enjoying it. So that's a big inspiration to everybody here in the audience. So one of our initial thought processes around this event was, we want to make this, value add. There's a takeaway for individuals who are joining the session, right? They're either looking to jump into security, or they are what we call early careers. They're just entered the cybersecurity field. They've got their first job, or maybe, they're very early on in that journey, and they're figuring out, okay, what do I do here? What's going on? What's happening? Some market, spiel, right? You have cybersecurity careers. They are marketed as the fastest growing in-demand field in IT. Whether you're looking at further education, you've graduated, you're changing career, jobs in cybersecurity, they offer potential for high earnings, flexibility, transferability of skills between industries, and provide lots of interesting and varied experiences. With that also comes the fact that you need to be, in a right mindset when you work. You have to bring in your experience, your skill sets, or be ready to learn, right? So with that in mind, I would like to first, understand more about what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, Katrina and Adam, right? Tell us about your first job and how you got into security, Katrina. And then ideally we'll walk into, what your day in a life as a CEO of a company looks like.
Of course, and it's actually a lot bigger than that, because starting from an early professional that you guys are here today, all the way to building up your careers, you will have a variety of different roles, do different things day to day, jump through companies, and that's completely normal. It's healthy. That's how you progress your career. So looking back at myself, and you guys will do the same in a couple of years, you'll have completely different roles, and that's how you learn. So when I first started, I got into security during uni, actually. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in computer science. So I had a computer science degree, but I just fell in love with some of the cryptography courses at the time. So I started getting into the cybersecurity field. But for me, what I had done actually is I kind of reverse engineered that. I had a goal that I did want to have. I did want to own my own company in 5-6 years from now. So I thought back then, my mentor actually is the CEO of the BCS Society. I had a chat with him and I said, how do I get there? So he said, you have to build your experience. So what I did is I was selective about my career and my roles I had in order to build me up to today. My first role ever was working in a SOC. And what that meant was I was sitting behind a computer, monitoring clients, seeing kind of different feeds that came into my screen. I'm trying to talk a bit more simply, and respond to some of those, and building up myself to be a level 1, level 2, level 3 analyst. So it was very simple as a job to kind of get into the field. And I also think that SOC, being in a SOC, is a very, very good entry point into the cybersecurity world as well. After that, I progressed a little bit into more technical stuff, pen testing, and the blue teaming, like I said, but that's totally different today. So what does my day look like today? Not that technical. So there's a stereotype that being in security is always being technical, and that is not the case. There's so many different roles in security, one of which is running a company. And on my day-to-day, what I do now is I do the business strategy around my organization, the hiring, the delivering projects, scoping with customers, delivering massive red team offensive security engagements, making sure that the CEO, the CISO, or the board that I'm working with understands the results, knows how to understand the risk around their cybersecurity exposure, where to invest solutions. So it's more in the advising level, as well as running a company, trying to grow a team, making sure everyone is happy. So very, very different to being technical. And the message there is that, again, security is not always technical. And I think that stereotype sometimes drives people away. The fear that I don't know how to program, I don't like that stuff. it doesn't matter. Security has so many different roles in it, and that kind of proves it in my career too. So many different things.
That's a
I hope
good
that
point.
answers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Security is not just technical, right? There's a wide ranging, view in there. But I like the fact that you said, you had a mentor, which is very important for people starting off early in their careers, to identify a mentor who can help them and show them the path forward. But also the fact that they told you need to get the relevant experience before you can go and start your own company. People think, hey, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to start my own company in 2 years' time. Is that enough experience to do what you need to do and be value add when you have a product to sell or a service to offer? That's an important thing. But getting that mentoring, very important, and having relevant and a depth of experience is absolutely key for us all. So thank you, Katerina. Adam, if you could tell us about your first job a little bit more in detail. That's I know you landed in NCSE, GCHQ, and everywhere. If you could talk to us about your first job, and then probably walk us through what your current day in a life is.
Yep, certainly. So my first job wasn't the most challenging job, but it provided me with a really good foundation of sort of understanding the basics of being in a team. So to build on what Kat has said, it wasn't necessarily technical, but actually there's the huge amount of skills that are required to just be successful in this industry. Learning how to talk to people, like consultancy skills are huge. So I primarily was doing like monitoring logs, assisting wherever I could, but I guess primarily just learning as much as I can. I got some exposure to some compliance frameworks, and understanding actually the whole pain that there is in compliance and regulation of security. It's not just running Metasploits and stuff. It's not just technical. From that, I progressed to some more technical stuff. Trust me to get a call during this webinar. But then my current job is technical. I do technical stuff and also managing a team. I have a strategy sort of side of the team which I have to manage. So again, in support of Kat's point, it isn't just technical. I tend to split the team in sort of technical and non-technical, and that includes like we have an entire strategy team which work with companies to build their security operator models, and I guess in a weird way solve security problems, but at an organizational level. I think because of my background as a security architect, I struggle to get away from the technical side, and I think that's okay. I think I'd probably challenge part of what Kat said, and that I agree you don't need to be technical, but you do need to have a broad understanding when in cybersecurity, and that's something I'm trying to teach my team currently that have a background in consulting, but might not necessarily understand the why they're doing what they're doing. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Absolutely, I think having the depth and is good when you're specializing in something, but having the breadth of understanding of what's going on to be able to not just understand, but also deliver something of value, and being able to put things in context, absolutely important. So it's great, thank you for sharing that. So as you would have noticed, Steve would have put a couple of questions for our audience members in the chat. Please go ahead and share what your current job title is if you're working, if you have some experience, how many years of work experience you have, and if you're in education, you're studying in school, college, uni, wherever you are, or doing a course, please tell us what you're doing and where you're doing it from. That'll be great for us to know. And I already see somebody in year 12 doing their A levels, some folks doing cybersecurity and forensics at university, degree apprenticeship at a company. So Brilliant stuff. Please continue sharing that with us. So let's, that's a good pathway, right? To talk about education, whether it's formal or informal. In the security industry, there's a big push around certifications. That in itself is a very profitable enterprise for many organizations. But could we get your thoughts, Adam, on the education piece, how important that is to break into this sector? And you mentioned placements, right? You did a couple of placements yourself, and that seems to be very beneficial to many individuals. Though they're not very widely available, but they're very valuable if you can get into the right spot at the right time. So could you share some thoughts around education, certification, placements, and alternatives, please?
I can. They might be controversial. But
absolutely okay.
So my own experience is I have a degree which opened the door. It was actually in digital forensics, and I switched to cybersecurity. And through my career, I've done a master's as well. I have to be honest and say that that master's didn't necessarily help me any further, but it's definitely something I wanted to do, and it's a great accolade. When I review CVs for people applying, I care more about their experience than their actual specific certifications and qualifications. That obviously is a bit of a problem if you haven't got the experience. How do you get the experience? So I guess it's really understanding someone's passion about a subject. So I guess it's, I don't know, maybe I'm going to pass this to Katrina and see what she has to say.
Okay, interesting question. So there is a large debate around certification and hands-on experience, but I think it comes back to what you say, Adam, that when you're early in your career, you don't necessarily have that experience yet, and you need to gain it. For me and part of the company as well, I think certificates are a very good physical proof of specific skills that are not as generic as a degree. So like myself, I have a computer science degree. Of course, it helped massively. But I found myself in all the companies that I've worked at, working with people that don't have technical degrees. I mean, one of the best security architects I work with, he studied biology back in university. So it wasn't relevant at all, but he taught himself through certification. So for me, certifications do drive competition. When you're applying for a job as an early professional, the CVs might seem identical if you don't have that much experience, but having that one certificate might differentiate you, not necessarily because you have more skill, but I think because it shows the passion. You've actually chased up on it. You went and spent time on something. You got an accreditation that is useful for the rest of your career, these certificates, and they are renowned. And my side is a little bit more on the red teaming and pen testing. And for pen testing specifically, so if any of you are interested in joining that field, certificates are a must in this field. So I think any CV I've seen has them as a requirement. In many cases, they're legal requirements for a company to have employees with certificates. So it gets a little bit more complicated the more you progress in your career. But I think spending the time and doing a couple basic certificates around security will give you a jump start, I think, in the industry, and will differentiate you, which is very important if you put that effort in for certificates. But there is what going back to Adam, the dilemma between hands-on and theory. A certificate you study for, you pass an exam, that's it. But the real hands-on experience is very different. So if you can combine the two, it would really boost your career.
Got it. All right, brilliant. Thank you. I think we may have a subject topic on certifications by itself, and that could go on for an hour from a discussion standpoint, because there's so many different varieties out there, hands-on, technical versus non-technical. So it's good to know that a good mix will help, but having something like that demonstrates your willingness to put an effort and shows your passion, as you say, Katrina, to, it gets your foot through the door, right? When somebody's scanning a CV and saying, do they have some qualifications? That's their first thing. Now, with all these stories you hear from recruiters of, hey, we spend 15 seconds scanning a CV, and if you find some keywords that are highlighted, they get through our filters, we take it to the next stage. If not, it's gone, right? We don't even look at it. So, and automated systems do that as well. So there is some value in having and considering certifications, I would think, but appreciate your views on that. Adam, I'm going to circle back to you one more time, right? There is a question here around from Carl around, he says, I've been in project management and business analysis for 15 years. I have a keen interest in cybersecurity, and I'm looking to understand the best route to enter the sector, right? I'm going to open this to both of you guys, but before we do that, Carl, Adam, just a quick thing on placements. Thumbs up, thumbs down, any advice?
I guess any project manager and business analyst will have very good analytical skills and can solve problems. So I think it's definitely there's transferable skills there. I guess cybersecurity consultancy in general would use those skills hugely. Basically, I guess a lot of engagements, people that know they need security haven't got a clue what they actually need. So having that the analyst sort of background is invaluable, and project management, of course, as well. I mean, if placements are available, or if you can find a placement within the current company or organization, then yeah, hugely support that. But I wouldn't. I mean, if I saw someone that had 15 years experience, I wouldn't discount that at all. I'd probably be quite excited about that, especially if the passion to get into cybersecurity.
And perhaps maybe you can combine the two. So what I would say maybe is, if you find a cybersecurity organization and join as a project manager, which is something that you're comfortable with, you can start learning of the people around you, finding out what roles are in a company that are security related, and then slowly progressing. So it doesn't have to be you jumping in the deep end. Join a cybersecurity team doing project management for a big cyber project, and slowly you'll start picking up on it and joining the sector, if that makes sense. I think it's an easy way to get in the field.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think if you have the flexibility and luxury of an organization which allows you to transfer between departments, or doing a stretch assignment, or what they call in some organizations bubble assignments, where you're able to go and work with the security team, start off with shadowing, but then understanding more about experiences. I think that's going to put you in good stead to say, whether it's internally you find a job in that team, or you look externally like Adam and Katrina say, right, there might be opportunities with your transferable skills, right? So that's the key thing. Talking about transferable skills, Katrina, anything else that would serve our audience and candidates in good stead? What do you think, apart from bringing from something from your current job? I know Carl had 15 years experience, but there are others on the call who probably don't, right? They are just starting off. What sort of skills should they bring, highlight to recruiters, to the interviewers?
I mean, that's an interesting question, but it depends on where everyone is at their early stage. Have you just graduated? Have you already done an apprenticeship, an internship? So everyone has a little bit of a different background. But what I would say is that the technical skills, you can demonstrate them from your degrees. And like I said, everyone's background is different. So you can talk about your team projects, your dissertations, etc. What is very important is the soft skills, which those are skills that anyone from any career has, and from life experiences, which is communication, problem solving, being analytical, adapting in different environments, the hunger of growing and staying up to date. Those are very key skills, the soft skills, that are relevant to any role in cyber. And when we interview for a job, this is what we look for as well. It's not just, I've done a course. It's how do I work well in a team? How can you communicate well? How do you present well? So there's a whole lot of other skills that you learn through experience that are definitely transferable and help boost you in any role you're at. Now the question, I mean, everyone has a different background. You just have to make sure when you're applying for a role, you kind of do your homework around that, see exactly what they're looking for, the requirements. And I guess we could talk about interviews in a different question, but talk about all those skills and talk about any experience you've had, whether in university, whether in different internships, and talk about those soft skills, because those are the transferable skills. So even if you have a degree in history, you could talk about that part, that you're good at being really analytical, memorizing a lot of information, simplifying information, communicating information, because it's a very different degree to programming. So I think it's always transferable skills, as long as you know how to represent them well and talk about them well.
Very good, very well said. I think that's spot on. Just a quick note to the audience: Steve has opened up a poll. Please go ahead and submit your responses. We'll take some of that and ask our panelists here to talk about things. Appreciate that. Adam, anything to add on transferable skills, the mindset needed to work in this domain?
I think Kat's covered all of it. It doesn't matter what background you actually have, like what degree you have. You can have a degree in farming, as long as you're honest, upfront, and passionate about the subject. Soft skills are huge. In fact, when we interview people, probably over 50% is someone's attitude as well as their competency. So yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think soft skills is a big deal, right? I don't know if folks on the call, you have access to maybe a career counselor at your university place of where you're studying. Please go talk to them, right, and understand how you can add value to yourself by doing presentation skills, facilitation skills, being able to analyze, being able to work together as a team, and all of these things. Giving feedback, taking feedback. All of these things are very important when you get into a professional workplace and you start interacting with colleagues from a security standpoint. And your technical aspects will obviously be needed where they're necessary depending on the role you're in. But all of these other things of how you fit into a team and how you work with others and interact with others, extremely important. I'm looking at the poll here and I see some responses. We have about 20 responses in here. Thanks for everybody who's voted in here. About 80% of the folks on the call today don't work in security. About 50 or so percent have less than 2 years experience. About most of them working today have less than a year's experience in security, right? So that's interesting. And when I look at the results for the security certifications, it's a mixed bag. It's one of those things. Let's focus on a little bit more on the roles themselves, right? The interviewing for these roles. We talked about these transferable skills. We talked about the mindset needed, right? I think if you have, with security, I think it's very unique where you don't need a qualified degree to get into it. And you could switch between different industry sectors like healthcare, defense, finance, transport, law. Everywhere there's a need for security, right? Security professionals. And you could still go and transfer between those sectors easily, right? So it's pretty unique and it's a very big selling point. If you need to get a job in here, it's easy in that way, and you can transfer across. So something to think about. Now, coming back to interviewing, what are the top things, tips or techniques that you would like to share with our candidates? Katrina, if you want to go first, then we'll go to Adam.
Okay. Interviews are always scary, and I'm pretty sure that everyone here is. It's a very hot topic, especially when it's the first interview you're doing or you're really early in your career. Initially, the mindset is it's okay if you fail an interview. So just don't be scared of an interview because it's just an experience, and you learn from the questions they ask you, the way you speak. And the first interview I've ever done was nothing compared to the interviews I did a couple of years later. So you do grow. So it's really good to have interviews. And also when you're changing roles and changing companies, also get rid of that fear. Because sometimes people are in a role and they're scared to do an interview for another company. So first of all, the mindset, get rid of that fear because that will really help you in the interview. So the interview, in my opinion, and I don't know, Adam, if you want to challenge that later on, but for me, an interview is more on the soft skills because the person you're interviewing with has already seen your CV. So they already know your experience on paper. Of course, they want to validate, probe a little bit more, but it's very important to show you your personality in an interview. That interviewer might be interviewing 100 people in a day. What makes you different? So you have to show your personality, your passion, focus on the role. Don't talk too broadly about loads of things. So do your homework. That's the most important thing. If a candidate has not prepared for the interview, it's as if they're wasting my time or the interviewer's time. Do your homework on the industry, on the roles, on where you want to be in a couple of years. Check some of the most common questions people ask in interviews. Focus on your achievements, practice on how to communicate this effectively, and show your personality. Talk about your hobbies yourself. It's not just, you know, I've done a degree, and it's not just what's on paper. Show yourself so you're memorable. That's my tip for an interview, and you will get better with time. And I think perhaps as well, you might ask whoever's in your university, you can actually ask this of your university. So when I was studying back then, a couple of us came together and we said, so professor, we need help. You know, we're all third years. We want to have some advice on interviewing. And they arrange something. The university has X alumni, X students, or the BCS here. We can arrange something if that's a need. We can do a session that's more preparing you for an interview. But I think those are the top tips on my end for preparing for one.
Okay, thank you. Adam?
Yep, I've got some fairly recent tips that I've worked out. There's a few things. I think I'm going to start with be completely honest on your CV. So expect to be challenged on what you put on your CV. And actually you can use that strategically. You can write a CV in a way that it has hooks. So an interviewer, in my experience, will tend to have made their mind up on the first page. So bear that in mind. The first page is the most impactful. You can put hooks into parts of that page, and the interviewer will likely pick up on those hooks and then question you on those parts of your career history. I think also the thing that I think is really useful is the STAR methodology. So situation, task, action, result. Try to tell a story in the interviews and on your CV where possible. And I guess particularly on interviews, I try to treat them as conversations, and sort of getting over that fear. The best way to think of it is it's two-way. Like you're interviewing that company as well as them interviewing you. You know, it's your life, it's your time. Do you really want to spend your time with that company? So if you don't get a good feeling from the interview and you don't feel comfortable, it's probably a good sign that, you know, it may be not for you. So don't be scared of not getting that job if it's not for you. Like I said, it's meant to be two-way.
That's a good point. It is an evaluation. It's a two-way street. You know, you got to figure out if there's a culture fit with what you are expecting and what they're offering. Otherwise, you're probably going to be unhappy very soon. So yeah, make sure you make that evaluation as your, you know, usually interviewers give you an option at the end of the interview, you know, 5-10 minutes to say, do you have any questions? That's the time when you start, you know, trying to uncover some of these things. I have a question from John, Adam and Katrina for you guys. It says, is degree in any field necessary or a prerequisite for cybersecurity jobs? I only have a post-secondary advanced diploma in software engineering.
Adam?
Okay.
Adam?
Absolutely not. Of course not. It depends on the organization. Like circling back to the point about certs, like in pen testing, you know, you need your certifications to work with companies because that's how they govern the compliance and whatnot. But certainly not for our organization. It wholly depends on someone's individual life experience. And I think, in fact, a good point might be like, as part of developing our cybersecurity strategy, one of our core principles is divergent thinking, because we want to solve complex problems, and you need people from different backgrounds to solve complex problems and people that think outside the box. So I wouldn't necessarily say you need a degree, but relevant experience is useful, especially if you're being hired as an expert. But again, it loops back to that sort of problem solving, and how can someone think outside the box and solve those problems. Okay.
No, I agree. And that's what, when I went back to before, saying that some of the most technical people I've worked with have had degrees, but in different fields. So it just goes back to, it's not necessarily the degree, it's the experience and the effort you put in. So the fact that you have a diploma in software engineering, you've already made that step. And I'm pretty sure the right company for you would appreciate that. Of course, every company has different requirements. Some of them want specific degree, specific requirements, but the world has changed. We've become, the world has adapted, to be honest. And information is so readily available everywhere. There's so many different certificates, so many different job roles, so much gap in this. There's a skills gap in cybersecurity. Let's not forget. So any experience you have, I think companies would definitely appreciate that. So don't feel bad that you don't have a degree.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's important to go through a job spec that's posted with, very clearly, right? There's not going to be one single candidate who can do 100% of the things listed on the job spec. That's just a wish list of the recruiter. But what you do need to do is figure out where you can bring your transferable skills. Are they asking for a degree, or maybe they can offset that with some experience or with something else? So look for those things, and hopefully things will open up in that space. And you can have a conversation with the recruiter and say, hey, I bring this to the table. Can I still apply? Will you interview me or consider me? I have another interesting question from Saeed on the chat. Do you recommend it's security, career in security for a mature IT person? Thoughts, guys?
Yes. Sure. I think to answer that question, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the question. Recommend what for a mature IT person?
Recommend a career in security for a mature IT person.
Of course, yes. I think we're biased, me and Adam, because we are in the cybersecurity field. But in my opinion, if you think about it, every organization in the world uses tech. We are relying on tech. That's a whole other topic on the way the world is changing and AI and how our identities are basically online. The security is such an interesting part in all that. Everything is hackable. If you just see like the damage that can be done if something is not configured correctly and someone attacks it, whole organizations, critical infrastructures can go offline. So it's something that's so niche, but so important to the whole ecosystem, and people don't even think about that. So I think, of course, if you're a mature IT person in general, you already will have a head start. You'll know a lot on IT. It'll be easy for you to progress. And for me, it's a field that's just growing. There is a skills gap. It's easy to build a career, to grow a career, to advance in your career. And it's very exciting. Just saying that you work in security is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Age is no barrier, as they say, right?
No,
to getting a career in security. All the transferable skills that Adam and Katrina talked about, absolutely bring it on. And I'm sure some company somewhere is gonna grab you with both hands. So go for it. Talking about skills, how would you recommend that our audience keep themselves current? What would your suggestions be? This field is dynamic, it's moving so quickly. Any suggestions on how to keep up to date here?
That's a problem I think all of us have, every single person, and generally tech, but particularly in cyber, just because the bad side, the more technology progresses, security does not progress in a linear way. So we're moving so quickly into developing new technologies. Everything is going cloud, everything's going AI. The security hasn't progressed in the same rate. So everyone has to be kept current. So I think it's very difficult, in all honesty, to balance that with your day-to-day jobs. And that's why we go back to certificates, to your personal drive, to attending different events, hearing different people speak, and your personal drive in trying to stay current. I know it's a bit difficult to say, but always read the news, be up to date on what's happening out there, new CVEs, new things that are happening in the industry, new tools. Always try and stay relevant and put that personal time in to do that. Going back to certs, I think they do help, because in my opinion, they help stabilize that, because certs also, it's a different discussion, they should be progressing, but they do force you in a sense to keep repeating them in order to maintain them. So you do kind of stay up to date on that. But it is a very difficult question because I think lately the pace has grown rapidly on growth. For me, when I left the technical part to do the more of the business part, in a span of 2 years, I mean, I don't know like anything anymore. That's how I feel in those 2 years. So I think you always have to just put the time in my opinion. I don't know what you do to stay relevant.
And it's mostly firefighting, trying to figure out what I need to know. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's hard because everything requires security. Every single technology has a security aspect to it. So, I mean, what I should say is obviously attend events like this with BCS. But in reality, I think because it's overwhelming, try and find what you're interested in and try to become an expert in whatever really floats your boat. I think also like the approach I tend to take for most sort of security problems is firstly understand, like, from a principle point of view, does a system or does something achieve like basic security? Are things authenticated? Is there logging? Like, try to abstract from the actual technology, because if you try to keep up with all of these technologies specifically, it's a losing game. So I guess it goes back to understanding an attacker mentality is really important. Like Kat and her red teaming company is invaluable in trying to secure stuff. So yeah, try to understand how things are attacked from a principal point of view, and try to dig into any areas that you really enjoy and keep up to date with them. I say that because it's so overwhelming to try and keep up to date.
Very good points around leveraging resources out there, probably using certifications to help advance your knowledge and keeping up to date. And events like these, right? For example, I know this is not a technical event, but there are other events that organizations put, like BCS, ISSG, other specialist groups. We have vendors throwing out webinars, which are all free these days, right? Everything is, you just get on a Zoom call or a Teams call, and go to conferences, right? Probably there's many free conferences. You go there and familiarize yourself with technologies, vendors, platforms, and do your research, right? Do some self-study, and that's absolutely going to help. And the certifications piece is also interesting, because some technical certifications, you need to take them every couple of years to keep up to date, and it shows, it's a reflection that you are up to date as well. So you're not stagnant in this workplace. So yeah, brilliant solutions. Thank you there. That brings us to the networking, right? The sessions like these. From your standpoint, how useful is networking? Is there a right way to do it? Any tips for our audience?
Okay. Okay, I'm an extreme advocate for this, to be honest with you, because for me, my career was tough in the beginning because I was a woman in cyber. I was a young woman in cyber, and the role I had was very difficult. I mean, I was put in rooms where I was the only young woman in cyber in front of many people, and I had to help them solve the incident. So I had to grow my brand, grow my eminence to help me progress in my career. People, in my opinion, and again, it might be a bit more extreme, but I think people need to know, if you can do this, know of you before meeting you, especially in a company, in your first role. And you do that by networking, by finding mentors, by attending events, by awards, by societies such as this. Meet as many people as you can. Mentors are invaluable. I had around 22 mentors in my first job ever in IBM. 22 on paper. Different fields, not just IT, not just cyber, different backgrounds. And I had meetings with them all the time. I was a bit annoying, just trying to get feedback and advice. And I had so much advice because these people have done it. They've done this for 50 years, 60 years, 20 years. And it helped me get that knowledge without doing it the hard way, if it makes sense. So for me, networking is so important for yourselves. You will build your career. No one else will build it for you. It's in your hands. Cybersecurity is a small world. people you meet you'll meet again. I mean, every time I go to a conference, I meet the same people that are in different companies. So creating those relationships will help you in your career. You want to change job, you already know 10 people there. You want to change again, you know more people there. It actually is such a small world. So I would say networking is invaluable. Having role models, having mentors, and building your personal eminence in whatever company you're at, I think is very important for your career.
Thank you. Adam?
Yeah, completely agree. Because of my background in essentially the black hole that is GCHQ, leaving a department like that and coming into the real world was a challenge, because of security reasons, we tend not to network as much because of the risks involved with that. But having left and now leading a cybersecurity team for a consultancy, networking is invaluable from a personal point of view, personal brand point of view, company brand point of view. And I think I reflect on what Kat said. It's such a small world. It is insane how many people you meet again and again and again. So I guess with that in mind, don't burn any bridges.
I didn't want to say that, but I meant that. I was
Very
hinting that. Yes.
Absolutely. No, I think we have a question here, sort of going back to the interview piece, just picking up on this. It says, can I get a security job without any experience? And I'm open to internship and placements to gain practical knowledge. Where can I get this? And then there's another one from David, which says, I'm a 19-year-old first-year computer science student. What will be the best way to get my foot into cybersecurity? So lack of experience or zero experience, any suggestions to candidates on how they would approach this?
Okay. Which one do you want to take, Adam? Okay.
Either
Okay.
is fine.
Yeah, so I guess can you read them out again? Read one of them out. Don't confuse me, Sarif.
No problem. That's fine. So it's the first question is, can I get a security job without any experience?
I mean, we just talked about all of the free conferences and webinars and all the ways to grow your skills in cybersecurity. You don't necessarily need a job in cybersecurity to get into cybersecurity. You could do certifications, you can do courses, you can do webinars, you can meet people, you can go to those free conferences and meet people. So I'd say there's loads of avenues to get into cybersecurity without having a degree and gone through the traditional routes.
But you have to put the effort in as well, because it is a competitive scene. So you can't just expect, like, with no experience and no effort to get the job, because it's a competitive field. So what you would have to do is do courses. There are many free courses out there, open source ones. So get a little bit of that experience. It's not work experience, but it's skills experience. And there's also internships or something like apprenticeship. So you don't necessarily need to have a degree, but some companies will hire like that. And slowly you build yourself up. Similarly, for the second question, I think for the leaving university, very similar. So here you already have a foothold because you have a computer science degree, but it's exactly the same thing. So grad schemes, I think, are really good for a first job. So many organizations, especially in the UK, are focusing on grad schemes. They're tailored to people that have just graduated, so they don't require experience, but they are competitive. So in a grad scheme, I joined a grad scheme. How you differentiate, again, is the passion you show and the soft skills around other graduates. So I think grad schemes are a very, very good starting point for people that have just left university.
That's great. Brilliant. Thank you. And thanks for asking those questions, team. I know we have another 6 minutes here. Just one wrap-up question to our panelists here. So looking a bit into the crystal ball here, right? We are now seeing artificial intelligence, deep learning, quantum computing coming up here, mixed reality. We see robotic automation and self-driving cars. There's whole thing around smart factories, connected intelligent ecosystems, and more, right? The technology and what's happening out there is moving at a rapid pace. What we thought 10 years ago was a good entry into a security role probably might not be the same with all this automation coming in and AI coming in. Now, what can our audience expect in terms of these future career paths into security with all these different opportunities? What are your thoughts on this, and what would you tell early career folks to say, prep for this or otherwise? Thoughts here, please. We'll start with you, Adam, and then we'll go to you, Katrina.
Yeah, I guess all those new technologies means more data, which means more security required for all that data. It's very exciting technology. There's a whole lot of implications that come with it. Like if we look at quantum cryptography, that's a hugely technical field. You need a background in maths to really understand how you defeat quantum computers and implement quantum proof algorithms. So essentially, because there's so much data, that security is going to be hugely important. Yeah, Kat.
You know what? Many years ago, when I was in school, many years ago, I would never have imagined, people didn't even speak about jobs. When you ask people what they wanted to do when they grew up, no one would ever say, I want to be a software developer, I want to do crypto mining. All these things didn't exist in a span of 15 years. So I thought about this recently. I was thinking, wow, how has the world changed so much? Because now the career paths you guys are thinking didn't even exist back then. And I think we're in the exact paradigm shift right now. The world is growing crazily. AI has already impacted everything, schools, universities, jobs. And I always speak from my side, which is more of the hacking side. I think that things are already vulnerable now. Imagine when we're even more reliant on them, in my opinion. So I think security is going to be even more of a need, but even in more places, because then we're going to be 100% reliant. I mean, everything is going to be happening through digitalization. I mean, at least now some things are a little bit more traditional. And in my job, if you guys, honestly, everything is breachable already. So I cannot imagine, and I'm already seeing this progression into being a more of a digital world, and everything's growing so quickly. So I think our skill set is required a lot more. It's going to be required really quickly. There's already a skills gap now. So again, we need to, you guys, it's an amazing thing that you're even considering a career path in cyber, so get into it. And it's going to be a very large and quick progression. We're in a paradigm shift. So I think this is the right moment to join the cyber world. It's going to make a big impact.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your thoughts there, Adam and Katrina. Any closing thoughts that you would add before we look for a couple of Q&A questions here?
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me. All I'm saying is well done for doing the first step, one of the first steps, I guess, in your early career. And just don't forget that you're in charge of your career, no one else. So everything we've discussed today, do take it on board and do make those steps. Go chase the certificates, go meet people, go create mentors, because it is up to you. I mean, we can speak all we want, but if you don't make that effort and chase it, then it's difficult to materialize. So hopefully after this, you feel driven to go start.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that. I know there's a question from Misbah in the chat around, is there any role in cybersecurity with not so much programming for people who are weak in it? Absolutely, right? There's a wide variety of domains within security. You don't have to be technical to be a security professional. So, feel free to reach out to us offline. We are happy to guide you there. I know we are just a minute shy of time. So appreciate everybody getting on the call. Thank you so much, Adam and Katrina, for your time and your thoughts, inspiring our audience here. If there's, hopefully we'll share some LinkedIn details. People can connect with you and get some guidance from you as well offline if you're okay with that. But how BCS and ISSG can help, as we covered this you are taking the first step by networking, by joining these webinars, as Katrina said, as Steve said in the chat as well. Please feel free to reach out, use the resources that you have with BCS and ISSG and other specialist groups. We are here, happy to help. And as we put on more events, we'll be happy to cater for all the different needs here, right? So feel free to reach out to us. And remember, if you don't take the first step, if you don't put the work, you can't expect the result. So thank you everybody for giving up your time here and attending. We will talk soon. All right, have a lovely day, guys. Bye-bye.